Welcome to the Get Smart with Money podcast. I'm your host, Dana Hernandez, financial planner and author of Get Smart with Money, Break Free from the Struggle, Build Wealth on Your Terms, and Rewrite Your Money Story. Here we talk about money, entrepreneurship, growth, and resilience, because financial freedom is about more than just numbers. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, inspiring stories, and the motivation you need to stress less about money and create more freedom in your life. Let's get smart with money together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Cecilia Mannella. She is a therapist, a relationship coach, and a podcast host of Mental Makeover Radio. Thank you for being here today, Cecilia.
Thanks for having me, Dana.
Yeah, of course. So I wanted to talk about your money journey, starting from when you were a little girl. How was it in your house, like around your parents growing up with money?
That's such a hot topic. Hey, money. So I'm Canadian. So my parents are both immigrants to Canada. My mom immigrated to Canada when she was about 5 years old, so pretty young. And my dad came as a refugee when he was about 22 from South America. So I grew up with immigrant parents. Is always it's an interesting way to grow up in a sense because they bring this old school ideology to a new world, especially when it comes to money. So growing up, I'm the oldest of four kids, so I have three siblings, and money was pretty tight. And there was periods of my early childhood, I would say there was I wouldn't say poverty as in abject poverty, but we didn't get new clothes. We were buying secondhand clothing all the time. There was a point where my parents were saving as much money as possible to buy a home. So we lived in this basement suite with two bedrooms, and there were six of us. So sharing bedrooms and sleeping in living rooms. And until my parents got to a better place where they could actually purchase their first home. And they did really well. They made their wealth through flipping homes, buying old homes that needed a lot of work. My dad was really handy. My mom had an eye for decor, which was really great. And they kind of flipped houses. And so we moved a lot and learned a lot about, a home is where your people are. It's not necessarily this thing that you own this house. A house is actually, I grew up thinking a house was an investment or an ability to build wealth if you did it in a really smart way. So with poverty, you learn a lot about saving, scrimping, but also I got to see my parents leverage what they were doing in a way to increase their security, but also to increase the security for the rest of us.
Yeah,
which was a really great lesson now in retrospect, but really difficult when you're a kid and we move probably every 2 to 3 years. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
hard
rough.
when you're a kid.
Yeah, you don't really get it. How come you have to leave this one place
Right.
again and again?
Right. And just when you love it, you start to learn to love this house,
Yeah.
and they painted it. And I learned so much, like, because of the oldest. And my dad really believed in, not a lot of gender stereotypes. And so he just taught me a lot of things. I learned how to finish a basement. I learned how to build out a room. I learned how to wire a new room for outlets and sockets and all these things. So I got to learn a lot of things, how to build out a bathroom, how to do all these things, which was great. But then you get so attached, right? Because you build this amazing place. You're like, okay, now it's exactly how I want it. And then they're like, okay, now we're selling. and we're moving into another house that needs a lot of work, right? So it's this it was a really interesting experience as a kid to have to move that much, but also see it as the stepping stones of building security.
Yeah, it's really smart. Did they already have that idea when they came to Canada, or did they learn that from somebody?
I don't really know. Actually, I think my dad was just really good at seeing opportunities. I think I
Okay.
learned that from my dad. He was really smart with seeing the potential of things. And I think my mom was really great at spending things. So they had this interesting dynamic all the time. You grew up this kind of a little bit gender dynamic around. he's the saver and he wants to invest things. And she was like, let's, make it beautiful and pretty and let's spend some money. Right. So
Mhm.
I think over time they just they did it once and it was really successful and they saw how lucrative it could be for them and how much it moved the needle forward for them. And so they continued to do that. And that taught us a lot of work ethic. We all had jobs really young. Like as soon as we could work as teenagers, we all had jobs. We had to pay for our own cars. We got our license. We had to pay for our fancy clothes. If I wanted like a pair of Guess jeans that were really expensive, I had to buy that myself. So there's a lot of teaching around working and earning and saving.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Hmm.
That's always good, and it's so rare these days. You don't ever really hear that, and like all the kids these days, they have phones and iPads, and they're not learning anything like that.
Hmm. It's definitely
They're the
missing the mark today, for sure.
Oh yeah, the parents are
Mhm.
letting those things babysit their kids.
Mm.
I
Well, my dad
can't.
was old school, right? They were like cash in
Yeah.
hand, right? Like they were very much like in that still that kind of probably immigrant kind of mentality around like if you don't have the money for it, you can't afford it. And if you
Yeah,
can't afford it, you're not buying it on loan. Like they didn't really like using credit cards and they really taught us a lot about managing credit cards and how it's really not really a great idea. It's good to build, credit score and all the things, but not really a good way to run your life if you can't afford it. So if you don't have cash on hand, you actually shouldn't be buying it.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. That's what I'm gonna be coaching people on very soon because
Yeah,
I don't want people to be like me
right. And so
in my
interest
20s.
for sure. And as much as they hammered it into me, so I was, the kind of stereotypical first generation daughter, straight A student, right? Really good at school. That was my job. It was really clear from my parents. They said, your job is to actually get good grades and that the opportunities would come with a good education. So that's what I did. But when I moved out in my young 20s, I accrued credit card debt because I felt that I felt like really proud of having to do it on my own without asking for help. And in retrospect, now that I'm 45, like I probably should have asked for help, but I didn't. It was really important for me to do it on my own. It's kind of this like fierce independence that they kind of planted in me and it just
Yeah,
like bloomed. I got through school by myself. I took some student loans out. I worked multiple jobs. I was living on my own. And so I accrued some credit card debt to get to the end of my graduate degree because I was in school for like 8.5 years. And that was a bit of a shocking moment when everything was done. I was like, okay, I've got this debt now that I got to figure out. And it was in retrospect, I wish I would have done it differently. I wish I wouldn't have put so much on my cards, even though it was taught to me. I think I made those mistakes anyways.
yeah, I feel like sometimes it's just inevitable. The
Hmm.
money's there and it's like, well, I kind of need this. Like, I need
Well,
it
and they
kind of
give it to
now.
you. They just give
And
it to
then,
you, right? They just like, oh, you get and they just like, here, would you like a credit card increase? Sure, why not? Because you don't
yeah,
think of the consequences. You don't realize that,
mm-hmm,
the $1 you're using comes at the expense of, 19%. So
exactly.
you're not just getting a dollar for dollar, right? You're spending a lot more money. So we learn a lot through mistakes, right? So that was a really big
Yeah,
lesson for me for sure.
yeah, same.
Hmm. Yeah.
Same.
So I'm glad you're coaching people on it because I think we don't really understand it as much anymore. I think that we live in a culture and a society that is very loan everything. Nobody
Yeah,
pays cash for anything and no one has money for anything. Everything is on credit, so to speak. Our cars, our homes, our wardrobes, our vacations, everything is on a piece of plastic or it's on a line of credit or it's on a loan of some sort. So we're not actually paying what we think we're paying. We're
yeah,
paying that plus interest, but we don't talk about it that way. We don't talk about what does that interest actually mean, right? If you're
exactly.
putting Christmas on a credit card in December and you don't pay that credit
Mm-hmm.
card off till November of the next year, Christmas
Yeah.
cost you 3 times as much as you think it did.
I think this just gave me an idea for like a worksheet that I'm gonna make.
Mm.
Like just at the top, it's gonna say interest and then blank percent. And
Love
then
it.
whatever their interest is on their credit card, they're gonna fill that blank in. And then every time
Mm.
they spend something on that credit card, they're gonna be like putting the price down plus that percent equals what? so they can
Oh, it's
see
a
it
great
on black
idea.
and white.
I love it. That's a great idea.
Because you can't see the percent when you're
Mhm.
swiping the card, you know?
No, and we tap, and tap is easy.
Oh
Just like
yeah,
tap wherever you go. You have no idea how much you're spending anymore.
exactly. Until your
Mhm.
bill comes and you're like, especially if you buy one item and then you get it and it's like, I thought that was like $40, and then it's like,
Mhm.
$50.
Mhm. Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
that just gave me an idea for a worksheet. So
Oh, that's
maybe we
great.
should.
I love that.
Awesome. So, growing up then, or well, starting work, that's when you started accruing credit card debt. I feel like that is inevitable. So how did you get out of that debt?
Um, how do I get out of that debt? It's a really good question. Thinking back, I had student loan debt and credit card debt when I graduated, and I gave myself about 3 years to pay it off, and I paid it off in 3 years. And it was
Wow.
probably a total of, how much was it at the time? Probably like 60 to $70,000.
Wow.
Um, and how I paid that off is I had a little bit of like my come to Jesus moment. Whereas like I can't continue carrying this because I wanted to buy a house. I was starting a business. There was all these other goals I had that were longer term goals that I saw for myself. And it was a reality check with myself around, there was excuses for it when I was in school. I was in university. I was trying to work as much as I possibly could, but I was trying to get school done as fast as I could. So you can only work and go to school for so many hours in the week, or
Yep.
else you just kind of literally go insane.
Yeah.
Um, so it was more of a reality of like, I really want this thing in a few years. So I need to sacrifice now in order to get something I want in the future. So it was really about, putting off um what I really wanted. So every time I would think like, I love shoes. I love shoes and I love handbags. I have since I was like in my early 20s. And it was just like, what do I want more? Do I want this pair of shoes now? Or, can I put that off because I want to get to this goal later? Do I want my own home? Do I want, to have a car without a car payment in the future? Like
Right.
that to me seemed a lot more, I don't know, exciting. It's not overly sexy, but it was just, I wanted that lifestyle where I wasn't living, every time I got a paycheck, I'd be thinking about all the debt I had to pay. Like that didn't feel good to me. And I wanted
It,
to be in a place where I had some freedom. So freedom was really important to me. And maybe
mhm.
that was maybe my driver, is wanting that financial freedom a little bit. So I wasn't tied down to debt. And that's what really motivated me to really buckle down and like cut out extra spending. And when I graduated, I was making more money as
Mhm.
having a master's degree allowed me to make more money. So I kept my lifestyle very similar and used all my extra money that I was making and paid off all my debt in 3 years.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's impressive.
Hmm.
That's really impressive for that much debt. I had that much debt at one point. I still am working on it
Hmm.
myself. So, yeah, how many jobs did you have at the time? Just that one that you got the degree
No,
for?
I had two jobs for a while. For about a year, I had two jobs. So I was working probably like 55 hours a week, I'd say, somewhere around there. And then after that 1 year, I started my own business and I was able to leverage and make more income that way.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. So what is your business?
Oh, so I have a counseling practice. So I started off as just myself, and now I employ about 14 people work in my practice. So 12 therapists, and then the rest are administrative staff.
Wow, that's a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome.
I mean, there's a lot to learn in running a business. Let me tell you, you learn about money really fast when you're running a business.
For sure.
And if you don't,
And
your business sinks.
regulations.
Uh huh.
Yeah, regulations and laws and everything comes real
Hmm.
quick.
Well, and when other people depend on you to be able to live, right? So how I manage the business money impacted everybody else's ability to live their life. And when there's pressure
Right.
like that, it kind of just really works to change the boundaries and the priorities you have around money.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you said, so that's your counseling and therapist office
Mhm.
that you have. And you also said you're a relationship coach.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
so
I'm
I work
assuming you do
with
all that coaching and stuff in there.
yeah, so I do relationship and dating coaching, which I'm really excited about. I love working with people in relationships or those looking for relationships, mainly because as a therapist, I see how many relationships fail because most people come to counseling when it's too late.
Yeah,
Like all the research shows that most couples go to therapy probably 5 years too late. Like they should have gone 5 years earlier to resolve whatever the issue was. And so in coaching, it allows me a different entry point to help people when the conflict is just starting, or in dating, it helps me help people to really figure out money and dating because most people don't know how to talk about money. They don't know how to negotiate issues around money. They don't even know how what their own relationship with money is, never mind having a conversation with somebody else. And I've seen so many relationships fail because of the stress of money that it motivated me to want to do some preventative work with people. And that's what coaching allows me to do.
that's great.
Mhm.
That's great. Yeah. I will say my ex and I kind of considered therapy when it was too late. So
Mhm.
I like that you're able to catch it early for some people who are like, "Hey, we think we need help." And you're like, "Yes, I can help."
Yeah. And money's a big topic for people and
It's yeah, for us it was too.
because people have different perspectives on money. And for
Mhm.
some it's really emotional and for some they think it's just like a math equation. It's really practical or money comes down to you either want freedom or you want security. And those are kind of the emotional drivers when it comes to money. And if you've got people in a person, most people like are attracted to the opposite. Most people who want freedom are attracted to the security people, and security people are really attracted to the freedom people. It's this yin and yang attraction thing, right?
Yeah.
But it also creates a lot of conflict, especially when there's stresses around money or deciding how to spend money or what to save money for, or even if they should save money. Um, and if you throw kids in there, it's like gasoline on a fire if you throw kids in there because it just
Oh,
makes
yeah.
it a cajillion times worse. Um, and it's not worth having the conflict around money because I think there's some easy ways to have conversations about money in a relationship that can bring the conflict down.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be super honest about,
Mhm.
like, your intentions and your past when it comes to money and how you want your future to look like.
Mhm. Yeah, if you don't have the same
Um
goals, then what are you working towards?
Exactly, that's, like, a huge thing.
Mhm.
It's huge. If you don't, like, have the same financial goals or you don't want to kind of end up in the same place as each other, then, yeah, what are you doing?
Well, and most people don't um connect their goals to money. So for example, I'll have a couple say, "We really want to buy a house." It's like, "Okay, great. That's a great goal, right?" But they don't actually stop to think about, "Okay, so then how are we getting there? And
Right.
what do we have to sacrifice? What do we each have to potentially sacrifice or change about our spending habits to achieve this goal?" We just assume the other person has the same idea of how we're going to get there. And the
Yeah.
conflict comes from this assumption around how we're going to get to this goal. So it's either buying a house or going on a trip or whatever it is. Some people are just like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." And then they just go on their merry way. And some people really need to plan it, or some people want to cut some of their spending. Some people don't want to cut their spending at all. They want to live their greatest life and get the thing that they want, which is not always possible. But
Right.
nobody really talks about that. When people are dating or beginning of relationships, they talk about their dreams, right? Which is great. Talk about the dreams. Do you want kids? Do you want a house? Where do you want to live? How do you want to travel if that's what you want to do? But they miss the next step, which is how do you envision us getting there? Like what would have to happen for this to happen?
Exactly.
And we have to make some sacrifices, like a little discomfort now for pleasure in the future, or it's all pleasure right now and discomfort for the future. It's one or the other. You can't
Exactly.
have both.
Yeah, because some people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
and it's not gonna happen by default, you're just gonna all of a sudden have the money to buy a house, like, you
I
have to
wish.
actually think about it, like, you
You
know?
need a strategy of how you're getting to these places, and
Yeah.
your version of getting there is going to be very different than your partner's version of getting there. So this is where couples typically kind of stumble quite a bit because they don't really get into the nitty gritty because I think we have this idea and culture in society that talking about money is not sexy. It's not attractive. It's not, we're just not taught how to do it, especially if we've got stuff in our own past about how our parents did it or
Yeah.
early relationships. So we just avoid it and we just hope it's going to get to be where we need it to go. But hope is not a strategy, especially with money. Hope is not a strategy.
No. You can
Hmm.
have faith that, maybe things will fall in line where you will have that money to do what you want in the future, but as far as hoping, you can't.
No,
That's
you
not.
can't.
No, there's actual numbers that need to be written out. I feel like some sacrifices for sure. And
And just being
yeah,
on the
there
same
needs
page.
to
So yeah. So
planning.
you're not fighting about, oh, you went out and bought, I don't know, an expensive pair of shoes, or look at you, you went out and bought like, I don't know, a boat when we're trying to save for a house. Like, like it's
Right.
just if you're because this happens, like you'd be surprised at some of the stories that, I'm sure you hear as well of
Yeah.
people just want that, like, I want this big goal, but yet I'm doing all these things that are actually preventing me from getting there.
Yeah. And you can cut things out, like
Hmm.
simple things like going to the gas station store and buying some snacks. Like, go to
Hmm.
the grocery store, take stuff with you. It's a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
Just little things like that you can do.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be crazy all the time, but little sacrifices like that,
It's just changing your
those really
lifestyle
help.
to get what you want.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, planning for the future
And doing it in
together.
collaboration, right? Like being
Yep.
able to talk about it openly without being defensive. I think that's very easy to get defensive about money because we go back to our childhood stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we often feel dumb and stupid. I hear this all the time. When, like, especially with women, to be honest. Like women are not really socialized or brought up to talk about money very openly. Like we're not really like we're not even talking basic
True.
savings is not really shared with women. Never mind investing. Like investing is a whole nother issue that women don't have like no access to as and that no one teaches them. You have to
Right.
teach yourself. So women have a lot of shame around it. So when someone
Mhm.
questions them about money, they feel dumb and they feel stupid. So then they kind of really shy away from it or they default to their partner for it. Like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. So I'll just let you handle it. But in worst case scenarios that I see is that this is what the dynamic that happens. And then let's say the spouse who manages the money dies or gets in an accident or is
Mhm.
incapable or there's a divorce and she's
Yep.
sitting there and she has zero clue about their financial situation, how many bank accounts they might have. Like she has access to nothing. And it's
Yeah.
horrendous to be in that position. Like women need to educate themselves and they need to learn because it's not as hard as we think it is. We don't have to feel stupid or dumb or in the dark about it.
Exactly. And some of
Mhm.
it's fun to learn. You can
I
be
think it's
really
super fun to
clever.
learn.
Yeah, it is. You
Mhm.
can be super clever with
Mhm.
money and the laws and tax advantage and everything like that. So, it's fun. I like it, and I like
Mhm.
teaching people how to be smart with money.
And it builds your confidence. Like, that's the other
Oh,
thing too.
yeah,
It's like,
for
it builds
sure.
when you feel like you have a grasp on this thing, like this money, because money really is it's a commodity that we use to trade with everything. Like, it's just what we need, right? And we
Mhm.
understand not only how it works, but how to potentially invest it and make more money, make your money make money. It builds your confidence. It builds your ability to feel like you have power in your life.
Yeah.
If you could package that up in a pill, you'd be a cajillionaire. Because
Right.
that sense of autonomy and confidence and just this ability to have these boundaries is there's nothing like it. And it doesn't take that much to get to this place of having some confidence around money and knowing how to talk about it with other people in your life. Like I wish women would talk about money with their friends. I wish it
I
wasn't so
know.
taboo to talk about money, to talk about salaries, to talk about what we're doing with our money, how we're spending money, or
Mhm.
investments that we have, or credit cards that are have a really good points program that everyone can capitalize on, or how to use things to your benefit. If we talked to other women about it, we would take away the shame and secrecy around it. So
Yeah,
this
and
is
we can
like I
help each
love having
other.
this, yeah, help each other instead of
Yeah.
feeling shameful or embarrassed about it.
Yeah, exactly. I like
Hmm.
that a lot.
Hmm.
Promoting women talking about money together.
I love that. Like
Yes.
I want that just across the board is just to demystify the the shame around it and the secrecy around it and just open it up to make it more open and transparent. If we all knew what the other person knew, we would all do better.
Exactly.
Mhm. And so we could
Simple.
grow. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. So there's interesting research with so we talk about the pay gap a lot with women and men. We don't talk a lot about is the investment gap because there's also a gap in investment because men typically invest younger than women do by far, and they're also willing to risk money in investments more often than women are because women feel like they don't know enough. They feel dumb and stupid, so they don't. They either don't invest or if they do invest, they don't take control of their own investments. They take somebody else's suggestion. But the
Oh,
research shows that when women are educated in investing, they typically pick companies that are much more community centered or community focused, or they're much more in line with, saving the planet. They're much more eco-friendly. They're just companies that are typically more connected and create a better world. When women invest and they get wealthier, they make more money, they put more money into the community than men typically do. So when women make money and have money, they actually put more money into the community. So either that's through donating to nonprofits or donating money, but they also employ other women. So when women make money, they employ other
that's
women.
true.
So housekeepers, different type like nannies, they will pay for services that employs other women to have
Yeah.
more autonomy in their life. So when women know about money and they make money, the world actually gets better.
Yeah.
And so
That's
uh,
crazy.
it's by far the most amazing research out there to say like women just do it different. We invest different, we see money different. It's much more emotional for us. We're much more connected to it.
Hmm.
And we're definitely more generous. When women are wealthy, they're much more generous than men typically are.
Interesting.
So an example
Interesting.
is Oprah Winfrey, like she builds schools,
Yeah.
and Jeff Bezos wants to go to the moon, right?
Right.
Like it's just very different, right? Like, and it's a very superficial, like I don't, have all the details of what they do with their lives, but it's like women, we just do different money. Women do money differently. And so
Yeah.
in relationships, it can cause a lot of conflict because if they're in a heterosexual relationship, women typically want to give a lot of money to the kids, right? So you
Yeah.
see this like kids have iPads, phones, everything. Women want to provide ease to their children. And
Hmm.
dads typically don't necessarily lean into that direction. And so that creates a lot of conflict. Or women want to donate more money and men don't necessarily want to. So, and when you don't have these conversations in a relationship, where you can agree on what that looks like to say, I need my needs met and you need your needs met around money. How do we negotiate this? It just causes fighting. People just fight for no
Yeah.
reason.
Like, how can you support each other and what you
Mhm.
both want?
And setting a limit to it to say, okay, if you have this dying need to donate to the animal shelter, great. What's the cap we're doing that this year? Like, what is the total amount that we're doing? So you don't
Yeah.
have to keep it secret. You don't have to like try to scrounge money around the place or not talk about it or be ashamed about it or whatever it is. It's really in the open. And if
Hmm.
somebody really wants to save, then they need to be really clear with those numbers to say, I want to save X amount of money this year for this reason. So
Yeah.
it can help the other person understand that they're not being cheap or, just being stingy, but they're actually working towards a goal that is connected to both of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that makes sense. People need to talk about that more in their relationships from the get-go
Mhm.
instead of waiting until you're like comfortable and then things start kind of happening. It's too late almost at that point.
Well, so many people get married and they've never talked about
Oh
money.
yeah.
So many
I know.
people.
I wasn't going to go there, but yeah.
Like, they date for years, they live together, they plan this wedding, which they probably spend way too much money on, because they don't even talk about a budget about a wedding, and they get married, and then 6 months into their marriage, they're in couples counseling, and they're having massive amounts of fights because they never talked about money. They never talked about managing money. They never
Yeah.
talked about who's gonna work more than the other person or what does that look like, there's been 0 conversation about it because
Hmm.
they just
And now
thought
they
it
have a
would
joint
figure.
account.
Right, and now you can see what your person is spending money on, and you're like, "I had no idea that you're buying Starbucks every single day," or, "I had no
Yeah.
idea that you go to the sporting goods store and you drop hundreds of dollars on baseball gear." Like, like we just don't have those conversations. So people get married and then they have those conversations when in fact they need to
Yeah.
be doing that prior to that commitment.
Yep.
So when I coach people around dating, these are important questions to have and conversations to have. I mean, they can be done in a fun way. It doesn't have to be done in this like very serious, let's pull out a ledger and like
Yeah.
calculate all these things. But it can be in conversation around like what was money like growing up? How do you feel about your relationship with money? What do you
Mhm.
want that to look like in the future? Or what are some things you really want to save for? Or how do you feel about saving?
Yeah, it's constructive. All of that is
Mhm.
constructive
It
communication.
100%, and it's all
So,
about being curious about the other person, being open to their whatever they're saying without being defensive about your own position in it
yeah, or judging them.
or judging them for it,
Mhm.
because that happens a lot too.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah,
ascribe
it's
like, "Oh, like your way is shitty and my way is the best way."
yeah.
Right? And so we get into the arguments of like whose way is the right way, and then we're not getting anywhere. When in fact,
Yeah.
maybe you can create a relationship way together and recreate something a little bit of you, a little bit of them, and you can kind of create your own signature way of dealing with money and knowing that it's always going to evolve.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. See, I wish that it would have been that way in the beginning, but it's
Mhm.
it's totally fine. Like I've been learning a lot since the breakup and everything,
Mhm.
and just doing this podcast and my 4 years in the business doing financial planning. So, it's okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, there is tons of learning, right? Like, what would you say are some of your biggest learnings of a relationship with money and how it worked
Um
with your previous relationship?
uh we definitely had different ways of looking at money in terms of like saving and
Mm.
spending. So I see the whole difference there and how you do attract the opposite. But it's also really important to try out their way
Mhm.
for a little bit too, so you can kind of see where they're coming from and they can see where you're coming from. Um, Also, I think learning about retirement plans and stuff
Oh,
together
yeah.
is really important too,
Mhm.
because that kind of makes you just start thinking ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and how compound interest works and everything like that. So,
Mhm.
those are probably like my biggest takeaways in a relationship that I've had. I I didn't know when I got into this past one that we should have really been talking about money up front. But for my next one, I will be doing that.
Yep.
I will be doing that for sure.
Yeah.
But I got into that relationship before I
Yeah.
was even in business, so
Right.
it's okay. I
Changes
didn't know what
things
I
for
didn't
sure.
know.
Well, you don't know what you know, and you learn along the way, right? And I think
Yep.
that's really important. And when it comes to retirement, I was a social worker and I worked in long term care for a short period of time, palliative, like end of life and palliative care.
Okay.
And what I learned from that was there's nothing worse than being old and poor.
Yeah.
Like getting old and great. If I get to be old, I think that's a privilege. Um, it means I've made it that far. But there's nothing worse than being old and poor.
Yeah, you're right.
And by far, the second largest population of people that live in poverty are senior women. So the first one's single
Oh,
moms, and the second largest population of people living like in poverty or below the poverty line are senior women.
that's sad.
Right. So because women take the most time off work for children because they're childbearing years, so they don't get to continue on their work or career path as much as men do because they have to take so many breaks. They're typically ones taking part-time work because they're child rearing.
Right.
So they're not contributing to pension plans or their 401ks or retirement as much because they have to work part-time to accommodate childcare. And by the time they get back into the workforce full time, they're far behind their male counterparts in the contribution into their retirement plans. So women are especially vulnerable and women live longer than men. So that's the other kicker there.
Right.
So not only do do we get screwed in so many ways, um, when it comes to like having children and being out of the workforce and being the highest employed like part-time people, or just barely making like livable wages, we also live longer. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
not, as women, taking care of ourselves financially and thinking long term, it's really problematic.
Yes. Wow. I didn't ever see it like that before, but that makes complete sense.
Hmm. So the greatest thing
Damn.
you can do is invest in your future because you don't want to be old and poor,
For sure.
because you
For
want options.
sure.
I mean, if nothing else, money gives you options,
Mm-hmm.
and retirement plans give you options because you don't want to
Yes.
be old and not have any options.
Exactly. And you also have to prepare for unexpected medical things
Hmm.
because you can never plan for that. You can just be
No.
prepared for them.
Hmm. And hope that they never
So
happen. It's always hoping that
hope they
never
never
happens.
happen, but
But be
it can
prepared
wipe
if they
out everything.
yeah, and be prepared if it does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, that was a great chat. I love that.
Great.
So, where can
Good.
people, yeah, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram. I spend quite a bit of time there, Cecilia Mannella, or you can find me on my website, ceciliamannella.com. I got tons of resources and workbooks around boundaries and relationships and leveling up mindsets and all the things when it comes to making yourself better and improving your mental health and wellness and in the world, but also everything to do with your relationships and dating as well.
Ooh, is there anything on communication, just like in general communication?
I have some blog posts about that, but you can also tune into my podcast, Mental Makeover Radio, and there's many episodes there on communication, attachment styles, relationship conflict, all the things that you probably want to hear. And if you've got a question as a listener, there's a form that you just fill out and you just like drop me your question and I'll just dive into your question on the next podcast.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me catch up with you really quick after. But again, thank you for being here on my show.
Great. Thanks, Dana.
Please like, review, share, and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram at GetSmartWMoney Podcast, as well as checking out our website at GetSmartWithMoneyPodcast.com.